has told that the heartland is one of the most important strategic location, और अगर वो बहुत ही important strategic location है, so how it is ruling the world island, and if they are ruling the world island, they will furthermore rule the whole world, right? So the point is that you need to understand in the heartland theory कि अगर रशिया आपका heartland में है, like that is Russia and other parts of the nation of Russia, they are the part of the heartland, then that means it will always have a importance, a strategic location, right? In this case, he did not consider did not consider the surrounding areas, for example, the seas, oceans as important factor in the today's time, right? Why? Spikeman has given rimland theory, and Spikeman has said it is equally important that you should have sea and ocean around it, and if you are having that, that means कि आप ज़्यादा powerful है. So basically, Mackinder has given more importance to what? He has given more importance to landmass, because landmass क्या नहीं है? Landmass आपका बाकी जगह से connected नहीं है. वो कहाँ से connected नहीं है? वो sea से direct access नहीं है उसका. किसका? Russia का, right? Because it does not have the direct access to sea. So Mackinder thought that nobody will be able to attack them, and nobody will be able to attack them. Therefore, they are safest. But Pikeman has not thought so. He said that because the routes are easily navigable, जो oceans हैं, जो sea है, वो क्या है? Easily navigable है. और अगर easily navigable है, तो ये ज़्यादा important strategic location hold करता है. So दोनों के theories में दोनों के viewpoints में contrast था, and that is what they discussed. Okay. All right. So next we are moving to another theory. This is just a description what we did yesterday. ये बहुत short में बताया. पूरा whole class was on this only yesterday. I have given ample amount of time. Now we are going to do next theory, which is your Rostov's model of economic theory. Write down Rostov's model of economic theory, and there had been a question on this theory many times. Rostov's model of economic theory. Now understand what he says. First understand like a story, and then I'll make you write. See, he said that any country will go through different stages of development. For example, if I consider North America, if I consider India, if I consider China, so that means they will always go through 5 stages of development. He talked about 5 stages of development. And these 5 stages of development, he said, the stage 1 is consisted of the agricultural type. For example, maximum people will be dependent on the agriculture. They are not having any kind of technology. Infusion is not there. People are not used to it. They are highly dependent on agriculture. They are illiterates. They are not having the correct know-how of the things, and therefore they are really, really underdeveloped. That is the first stage. Then comes the second stage, where people are setting some sense of knowledge about different things, and they started to understand that how they have to use the resources. Then comes the third stage, where the technological infusion is furthermore, and the people have the growth takes off in that area, and people started using the modern techniques. They started using the different methods. People are coming from the agricultural livelihood sector to different sector. They start moving. For example, they start moving to manufacturing. They start moving to services. 4 stages further there, where we are talking about research and innovation, and then what is happening with the research and innovation, and many things are developing, and further it takes off for the people, right? So now in this theory we will understand that how stage 1 is there and what are the characteristics of the stage 1. In present context, if I say that all the countries are having a stage 3 or all the countries are in a stage 4, so we cannot justify that. Why? The point is that there are still countries who are still in the stage 1. For example, there are a lot of countries of Africa. Africa, you know that it is highly underdeveloped, right? Lot of parts of the country, African continent countries are underdeveloped. They are not having the basic amenities. They are still dependent on agriculture for their sustenance, right? So we can say a lot of countries are in stage 1, and then there is a country which is in stage 2, then there are countries which is in stage 3, and fourth and fifth. What generalized statement I can make out of the Rostov's model is that Rostov's model generalized statement can be like this: that developed countries, your USA and your European countries, can be categorized under stage fourth and stage fifth. And most of the developed countries, by the way, they are flying under stage fourth and stage fifth, right? And there are some learning also that you have from all the stages. See, one is you are going to have the patterns, that whether the pattern that they are following is right or not, whether the characteristics that we see in this stage is absolutely getting in coherent with the stages that we have learned in the Rostov model. By the way, who was Rostov? Rostov was economic advisor of in the US, right? In from the period of 1966 to 1969. So he has given this theory, and there is a book also on this Rostov model of economic theory, that one if wants to read or you have interest, then you can go through that. But what we have to do in the exam is just a theory. We have to understand the detail of it, right? So we will analyze it in a deeper manner, right? Now write down in an attempt, write down in an attempt to identify, in an attempt to identify a framework, to identify a framework by which economic, by which economic development of nations, economic development of nations can be analyzed, can be analyzed, comma, W. Rostov, W. Rostov proposed, he proposed five-stage model, five-stage model, he proposed five-stage model which tried to show how, comma, which tried to show how, comma, over a period of, over a period of many decades, over a period of many decades, over a period of many decades, comma, nations developed from traditional society, nations developed from traditional society to traditional society to one of high mass, one of high mass consumption. We will analyze what do you mean by high mass consumption, what do you mean by traditional society, but one by one. Okay. Now write down the next line. Rostov's based his model. Rostov's based his models on studies of many countries, of studies, on studies of many countries and their economic and social history. Economic and social history. Now see, when you are analyzing anything or you're generalizing after the analyzation, for example, if I have to make a generalized statement, obviously I have to read, I have to study the background of every country, like how the development has happened. I cannot make the statements like that. So what he did the same thing. He analyzed each and every country, that what was the background, that how this country has gone from stage 1 to stage 5th. And in order to understand this, he found some of the commonalities. He found some of the commonalities in all the countries' pattern, behavior, characteristics, and therefore he generalized it. There are some, obviously there would be some of the country who would have just jumped from stage 1 to stage 3rd, or there would have been some country who have jumped from, or maybe they have taken reverse, like stage 3 to stage 2. But the point is, here we are not considering the exceptions for now. The exceptions which will be there in the countries, वो हम किस में रख सकते हैं? We can put it in the criticism of the Rostov model, because कोई भी model is applicable on all countries or not, which can be decided only by reading the background of the country, right? And if some countries are not fulfilling or they are not lying in his model, then definitely that can be put under criticism, because when you're putting a model, that has to be applied to maximum of the countries, right? Now, write down the model suggests that, write down the introduction. The model suggests that low technology and agricultural, write down in a single inverted commas, traditional society, ट्रेडिशनल सोसाइटी, ब्रैकेट में लिखेंगे स्टेज 1. So in stage 1, what description I have given? I have given low technology and agricultural traditional society, which is your stage 1, would through external influences gradually increase investments in its infrastructure. Investments in its infrastructure. Investment in its infrastructure, ब्रैकेट में लिखेंगे roads, comma, water supplies, etc. and develop its agriculture and extractive industry, and develops its agriculture and extractive industries in a new social and political framework. In new social and political framework in stage 2. In stage 2. comma, as preconditions for economic take off. I am using the word take off और आपको यही word use करना है. Take off means that it booms, right? It is increasing like anything. As precondition for economic takeoff to occur in stage 3. Full stop. From this point on, investment and economic growth become self sustaining. इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ क्या हो जाता है, खुद सेल्फ सस्टेन करने लगता है. with manufacturing industries developing, full stop. The impetus of this the impetus of this leading to economic maturity in stage 4, full stop. Finally, with the consumer durable industries supplying the needs of wealthy population who have high level of consumption, right? High level of consumption, bracket में लिखेंगे stage 5. This is just the introduction I have given. Read the introduction one by one. I'll explain you stage 1, then characteristics, then stage 2 we will see, then stage 3. This is just the normal description of one line, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 and finally stage 5. Take a minute and read it out and then we'll start with stage 1. Okay. Have you read? Online students, everyone? Write down stage 1, traditional society. Give a heading, stage 1, traditional society. Stage 1, traditional society. And write down under it. Rostov uses this term to define a country that has not started the process of development. That means if I consider the time period of 17th century in different parts of the world, right? In fact, in European countries also, and Indian countries also, Indian country also, right? So what will happen in this case? In that point, in that period, what was happening? People were more of dependent on agriculture. Not only dependency was there, but also know-how was not there, and there was that most of the societies were conventional. These were some of the attributes. And if I talk about these attributes, then one can see in the history also, this was a normal pattern of maximum countries. Although I can say that European countries or Western nations, they took from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3 in a much earlier period. They were the one who actually changed their stages in a very short period of time. With compare, as if we compare it to Asian countries or Southeast Asian countries who took little more time, right? So first thing is that Rostov uses this term to define the country that has not started the process of development. That is stage 1 ka characteristics. A traditional society write down, a traditional society contains a very high percentage of, a traditional society contains a very high percentage of people engaged in agricultural and high percentage people engaged in agricultural and high percentage of national wealth, high percentage of national wealth is allocated to is allocated to what calls what Rostov calls non-productive activities. Non-productive act. That means he was saying that in this stage, first point, people will be they will be involved in non-productive activities. Nation of the wealth of the nation will be going into these non-productive activities. And what is non-productive activities according to him? Such as military, and religion. What he meant by military, it's not that keeping a defense force that he is talking about here. Keeping a military means going out in the expeditions, going different places to annex the area, they're getting into the war. That is what he's talking about. This is what he's talking of as unproductive. He's not military, do not take in a literal sense that keeping a military is useless. What we are trying to say is, what he's trying to say is, military he meant in those period, in the terms of that how people used to go for a war and annex the area, etc., get into the battle. This is the time where people were involved in non-productive activities. Now write down the characteristics of this stage, how people actually look like. A country who is in the stage 1, how you will be able to identify that the country is in stage 1. What characteristics you will find in there. Write down the characteristics first. Online students, you can raise the hand if you have any doubt, please. Or if everything is clear, then please write a comment. You can comment in this box. Okay. Ishan, are you able to get something in the first class?
No, ma'am.
Huh?
No, ma'am, I'm not able to understand this.
Acha, because you're not starting, because you're starting from the midway, because ideally you should have started from there, like on from Monday, but it's okay. Even if what part you're not getting, I really want to know if somebody starting altogether from between, that how one should get it. What part you're not getting in this exam?
I understood the concept, what are the developments and all, but
हाँ.
how to interlink it and all this.
अच्छा, इंटरलिंक नहीं समझ आ रहा है. ओके ओके. सी, ज्योग्राफी में ऑप्शनल में द पॉइंट इज दैट you have to understand the things like this. Okay, what models and theories has been given to you, you have to just understand and you have to apply in the present context. बस इतना ही करना है आपको. You don't have to get into the analysis of it. ज़्यादा बहुत ज़्यादा डीपली नहीं जाना है हमें किसी भी टॉपिक में. Right? If I talk about the Rostov model that he has given, we have to understand the Rostov model and then we have to apply. प्रीवियस टाइम में जाना है, हिस्ट्री में जाना है, थोड़ा सा देखना है कि क्या ऐसा था कि इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन, बिकॉज दिस इज समथिंग दैट यू विल डू इन योर जीएस पोर्शन, राइट? सो इवेंचुअली व्हेन योर जीएस पोर्शन विल बी कंप्लीटेड और मे बी पैरेलली इट विल बी कंप्लीटेड, थोड़ा सा ज्यादा आपको समझ में आने लगेगा चीजें. ठीक है? ऑलराइट. Write down the characteristics of such areas. Write down. First part is less developed society in terms of science and technology. Less developed society in terms of less developed society in terms of science and technology. Right? Next is limited production. Second point, limited production. क्यों limited production है? Again, lot of people are not that much, क्योंकि प्रोडक्शन कब ज्यादा होगा? व्हेन यू विल इन्वॉल्व द टेक्नोलॉजी, राइट? कितना मैन पावर कितना ही प्रोड्यूस कर पाएगा, राइट? दैट इज व्हाई अगर हम 1960 से पहले का टाइम देखें तो ये डिडंट हैव सो मच ऑफ गुड प्रोडक्टिविटी और प्रोडक्शन ईड, एग्रीकल्चरल ईड, वी डिड नॉट हैव दैट गुड. लेकिन 1960s के बाद ज्यादा होगी बिकॉज वी इन्फ्यूज्ड green revolution, HYV seeds, and it got better. That means technology is necessary in order to give a good productivity yield. ठीक है? Third is industry activity. Industry activity shows a tendency. Third, industry activity shows a tendency to grow. Shows a tendency to grow. That first write down, industry activity shows a tendency to grow. That means industrial activity क्या होगा? Obviously there would be some signs shown in the whole society कि कुछ ना कुछ तो improve हो रहा है. There is something which is getting improving in the industry. But वो सिर्फ signs होंगे. Actually में there would not be much industries set up. बहुत limited signs होंगे, right? But they won't be able to fulfill the aspiration of so many people who are there in the country. ठीक है? So the point is that industry activity shows some tendency to grow, but the progress is constrained. But the progress is constrained, CONSTRAINED, constrained by inadequacy in, by inadequacy in scientific knowledge. Inadequacy in scientific knowledge. Next point, productivity is low. Productivity is low. After that, write down predominance of agriculture, predominance of agriculture, predominance of agriculture would lead to hierarchical social structure. What do you mean by hierarchical social structure? In the previous time, you have known that used to be the community. कैसे होता था community आपका? सबसे पहले क्या होगा ऊपर? You will have the dominance of what? Zamindars and all, your landlords. Then you will have what? Landlords होंगे, zamindars. And after that you will have peasants under them. उसके अंदर भी कोई आपके tillage workers होंगे, right? So these all will be there. So कैसा होगा? एक structure होगा कि आपका सबसे पहले ये families, right? Then you will have landlords, zamindars, then you will have other people who will be under them. So there will be hierarchy in the system. So isn't it because maximum people are dependent on the agriculture, and therefore people will try to exploit this area only, right? And therefore you will have the social structure. और ये social structure बहुत ही ज़्यादा detrimental होगा for the people who are at the base. कौन से लोग? Peasants, because they will be exploited more in this whole process. Next is concentration of political power. In such societies, you can see concentration of political power. Piyush, can you tell me, give me the good example of that? How the concentration of political power you could have seen in such societies in the stage 1? Just put on your mic if you can. Okay, okay. Yes. Give me some kind of description here in the comment section then. What kind of examples that you can have where the concentration of political power will be there? That means that only power of political power will be concentrated with only some kind of people, right? एक group होगा, उनके पास ही क्या होगा? सारा political power होगा. It is concentrated. ऐसा भी हो सकता है for democracy हो या नहीं हो. That could be, yes, king and correct, right? So they would be king. जो आपका king system होता था पहले, that you will have a king and then he will annex the places and then he will put his policies in front of his kingdom, and then the people have to follow him. So this is what will be followed, right? In such systems, you can see this pattern. Earlier in India also this pattern could be seen. In European countries also this could be seen, where the concentration of power only lies in the hands of few. Next, write down stage 2. Write down the stage 2, the preconditions for takeoff. Stage 2, write down the preconditions for takeoff. क्या क्या preconditions होगा आपके take off करने के लिए? Write down. Stage 2 में देखेंगे stage 1 is completed, and we have seen the characteristics also of the stage 1. Now write down stage 2, the precondition for takeoff. Write down the heading and write down under it, according to Rostov, comma, the process of development begins. The process of development begins when an elite group, when an elite group initiates, when an elite group initiates innovative economic activities. Innovative economic activities. full stop. Under the influence of these well educated leaders, under the influence of these well educated leaders, comma, the country starts to invest. The country starts to invest in new technology, and infrastructure such as water supplies and transportation system. So what characteristics we found in this? That there would be some kind of economic development which can be started by the group of elites, right? For example, earlier we started having a first railway in 1853. We had in India our first railway in 1853, and after that there was connectivity. We worked on the connectivity between different parts of the country. This is a part of your economic development when we are laying the connectivity networks between the different part of the country. So the transportation of goods become easier and the travel of the people from one place to another place also become easier. This had more of commercial value at that point of time, right? We had a more of this was seen from the perspective of commercial at that point of time, right? Next, write down characteristics. So there are some of the things which we can see from our Piyush Singh. Yes, dams, canals in India post. Yes, correct. That can also be added. Dams and canals. Agriculture sector mein you can add. In agriculture you can add introduction of HYV seeds. Right? In railways and connectivity or transportation, you can add this laying down of our first railway network from here, right? Now write down the characteristics, and also not only this, you can also add the industrial setup, your cotton textile mills. Apart from that, example could be included in this cotton textile mills. This reference I have given it in the concept of I have given this in the concept of India, but you can also write in the concept of world, right? Maybe you can write in the context of the world also, like for example, how different industries were set up in different parts of the European nations. That example can also be given here. Okay, not only this. Write down now characteristics. First is societies are in the process. First point, societies are in the process of transition. This is what we are writing, stage 2, correct. Write down societies are in the process of transition, comma, building up conditions, comma, in course of time that enable them to take off. Second point, rise in the rate of rise in the rate of savings and investment. Rise in the rate of savings and investment. Next point, more emphasis on trade. More emphasis on trade. And the last one, development of transport. Development of transport and communication. Development of transport and communication. Write down the third stage, which is the takeoff stage. Write down the third stage, which is the takeoff stage. Stage third, which he called as takeoff stage. If I ask you the question, it is apt to say that the stage third should be called as a takeoff stage. Justify the answer. So what points you will write to give in this? Write down the question, and then I will tell you that how you have to justify. Write down how can you justify. Write down the question. How can you justify that stage third can be tagged as, say, stage third can be tagged as TAGGED, tagged as takeoff stage. Write down in 150 words. But you don't have to write it now. First listen. Okay? First is rapid growth. So rapid growth is generated in a limited number of economic activities. See, takeoff, why they have given this word? The first point is because the trajectory that it will take after doing some amount of work. For example, input जितना भी आप डालेंगे versus जो output होगा, which is going to be exponential. Not, if not exponential, then it will be too great from what you are putting in it. For example, थोड़ा सा economic development से आपका क्या होगा, या फिर जो भी आपने input दिया है उसके अंदर, there is going to be large amount of benefits that one is going to get as a country, as an industry, or as a group of people. You are going to get too much of benefits out of it. So one is this, कोई भी technology आप ले लीजिए, right? For example, if I take any technology, if you say innovation of machines, etc., your machinery, your printing machines, etc., or anything. I'm discussing that point of time where the technology was getting invented, right? Or maybe your internet, right? So all of this, because of this, what is happening now? Because people are getting benefit out of it. जितना आपका इनपुट है उससे ज्यादा, बहुत कई गुना ज्यादा, कहीं मल्टीपल टाइम्स यू आर गेटिंग बेनिफिटेड आउट ऑफ इट. सो that is the ratio. Now write down, rapid growth is generated. What is the characteristic? Write down, rapid growth is generated. Rahul, you joined so late, what happened? Write down, rapid growth is generated in a limited number of economic activities. In a limited number of economic activities such as textiles or food products, such as textiles. Ma'am, I'm not able to find the link on the portal. What happened, Rahul, today? अच्छा, link नहीं मिल रहा था. Okay, don't worry. So you can watch the previous recording of the same lecture then, right? आप यहीं से continue कर लीजिए, and then whatever has been not. अच्छा, ma'am, I also not able to. Okay, ठीक है, whatever has been left you can just cover it up later on. यहाँ से आप समझने की कोशिश करिए, ठीक है. In that case लिंक था नहीं या फिर अपलोड नहीं हुआ, या फिर there was some other issue or the link was not working. What was the issue? Acha, it was in the end of the list. Okay, done. Write down. The rapid growth is generating a limited number of economic activities such as textiles or food products. Full stop. These few take-off industries, continue in this point, these few take-off industries achieve technical advances, achieve technical advances and become productive. They achieve technical advances and become productive. And other sectors of the economy and other sectors of the economy remain dominated by traditional practices. That means अभी जो take off है that has not completely been done in all the sectors. जो आपके traditional sectors हैं they are still practicing the same thing, right? They are still in the same zone, right? And your the sectors which have got innovation or some kind of economic development, they will show the sign of growth, right? So this is your innovation economic development. लेकिन ऐसा नहीं कि सारे के सारे जो सेक्टर्स है सब में आपका इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट होने लगेगा, बट ट्रेडिशनल सेक्टर्स जो हैं जो ऑलरेडी जैसे थे वो वैसे ही रहेंगे. देयर इज नो चेंज इन दैट. सो दैट मीन्स अभी पूरी तरह से जो आपका इकोनॉमी है फिर उस तरह से क्या नहीं करेगा, आउटपुट उस तरह से नहीं आएगा. ऑल्दो वी कॉल इट एज टेक ऑफ, but the people who were trying to practice something in their traditional way, they are still practicing in that way only. So the you can say the penetration of the things will not happen so steadily in this stage. Okay, this could be one of the point that you can add. Now write down these few takeoff industries achieved, just read, okay, I'm just repeating the point. These few take-off industries achieve technical advances and become productive, while other sector of economy remain dominated by traditional practices. Now write down the characteristics. Write down the characteristics. In this period, comma, the growth becomes the normal condition of growth becomes the normal condition of the society. Growth becomes the normal condition of society. Next point. It starts with some sharp stimulus. It starts with some sharp stimulus from political revolution, from political revolution and innovation and innovation. Next point. Investment rises 5 to 10% of the national income. कितना इन्वेस्टमेंट करने लगोगे? 5 to 10% का इन्वेस्टमेंट आपको दिखेगा, ठीक है. इन्वेस्टमेंट राइजेस 5 to 10% of the national income. Next, write down the heading requirements of takeoff. क्या क्या रिक्वायरमेंट्स होगा टेक ऑफ का? पहला रिक्वायरमेंट ये होगा दैट इन्वेस्टमेंट शुड बी मोर और इक्वल टू 10%, जितना भी आपका नेशनल इनकम है, राइट, उसका 10% यू हैव टू इन्वेस्ट, या फिर उससे ज्यादा भी कर सकते हैं, एटलीस्ट 10% तो होना ही चाहिए, राइट. 10% शुड बी इन्वेस्टेड. नेक्स्ट इज डेवलपमेंट ऑफ one or more substantial manufacturing sector. Development of one or more manufacturing sector. One or more manufacturing sector with a high rate of growth. Okay. Then you can write down the stage 4th. What he called the stage 4 as the drive to maturity. The drive to maturity. That means we have just started as a nascent in the stage 3rd. For example, we have set up industry and we started getting some kind of profits. Then stage 4 mein aake we will be so much developed in that zones that we will be driving a maximum profit from these industries, right? What we started as nascent, we will be doing very well, extremely well as compared to the other parts of the world. So write down modern technology, comma, previously confined to a few takeoff industries, previously confined to a few takeoff industries, comma, diffuses to a wide variety. It diffuses to a wide variety. It diffuses to a wide variety of industries. It diffuses to wide variety of industries, comma, which then experiences rapid growth, which experiences rapid growth as compared to as compared to takeoff industries, as compared to takeoff industries. Here people become more skilled, right? Another point that stage 4 has included is workers become more skilled and trained. They become more skilled and trained and specialized, or you can use the word they specializes into one domain and specialized. After this, write down the characteristics of such places. Can you tell me the country in this, in the stage 4? There are many countries lying in the stage 4. Your USA, your different nations of EU, European countries. Then Japan is one of them. Your South Korea, right? All of them are the parts example of it, where they are so much specialized in one domain that people would want that. For example, Japan is too much specialized in the automobiles. They are specialized in automobiles. Then you have South Korea specialized in a lot of tech with related to manufacturing of, again, cars, that is also automobiles. Next sector is your IT, right? China, you can say they are specialized in semiconductors, chip. right? So we can write some of the examples like this, where the people are actually so much trained. So for particular country, you can actually call for some sectors. Like straight away I said it's this. USA is also specialized in automobiles only. You have this Deloitte area, right? And they are known for it. And apart from that, IT, obviously USA, your Silicon Valley. So these are some of the examples. Next is write down the characteristics of such company, stages. This is a stage 4. Write down the characteristics. तो अर्लियर वी सी टेक ऑफ पे कितना आपको कंट्रीब्यूट करना है इन्वेस्टमेंट में 10% या फिर उससे ज्यादा. इसमें आपका जो कंट्रीब्यूशन होगा इन्वेस्टमेंट में दैट विल बी इंक्रीज्ड at least from 10% to 20%. So you can write down in the characteristics the investment should be increased from 10 to 20%. It should lie in this bracket. Write down increase in investment. Write down the first point. Increase in investment from 10 to 20% of the national income. Of the national income. Second point, change in character of labor force. हमेशा देखना जब भी आपका स्टेज 4 में कोई कंट्री होगी, जितने भी मैंने एग्जांपल्स आपको दिए हैं, all the examples whether I've given of USA or Japan or South Korea, if you see the demography of this country, right, the workforce, actually you have to see the labor force, workforce. So how you will see that maximum people are in organized sector, or even if organized sector. So when maximum people are working in the organized sector, that means you can track your workforce very easily. Unorganized sector gives you a lot of unpredictability, and also you never know, you won't be able to track them much, right? So this organized sector में जो लोग हैं वो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा होंगे in this stage 4, जितने भी मैंने आपको examples दिए in these countries. Write down changes in character of labor force, bracket में लिखेंगे more organized, comma, and they would have increased wages. They would have increased wages. Next लिखेंगे increase in exports. Definitely, when one country becomes so good at something, the demands automatically rises across the globe, and then they become, it's kind of a dominance over the other people, other parts of the world, right? Because you know that they are best at it. Write down exports, increase in exports. Next लिखेंगे increase in standard of living. Increase in standard of living. Increase in per capita income. Right? That's all of for stage 4th. Now we will move to stage 5th. Move to stage 5th. Okay, what is a stage 5th is known as? It is known as the age of mass consumption. Write down the heading, age of mass consumption. Age of mass consumption. Why they have been called as age of mass consumption? Because your masses are trying to change the system. Why? As the, see, पहले क्या कर रहे हैं आप? By the manufacturing. Why they have told it as a age of mass? See, stage 4th के अंदर जो आपने डेवलपमेंट किया, अभी तक तो इतना डेवलपमेंट ज्यादा था नहीं. अब जब आपने डेवलपमेंट किया, so you have tried to create a kind of a necessity in the market. पहले उस चीज की नेसेसिटी लग नहीं रही थी, लेकिन जैसे आपने प्रोडक्ट निकाला, राइट, So it becomes a kind of a necessary for everyone, right? Now it became necessary, then people will start consuming it. It is like this. Now ये जो consumption pattern है सब में फैल गया. Everybody is consuming that particular product. But the point is, in stage 4, the things does not work like that. Why? This is happening. It's not working. Work नहीं कर रहा. It's not working. काम नहीं कर रहा. It's not working. It's okay. It's okay. ठीक है. So now in stage 4, stage 5, penetration of the product has already happened. यहाँ पे सबके पास है, right? But stage 4 में क्या होगा? Now consumption pattern जो लोगों के हैं वो change होंगे, and then they will demand something. Now they will try to create a demand that we want this. ठीक है? So it changes. So write down, then you'll be able to understand it more. First, write, a society approaches maturity in this stage. The society approaches maturity in this stage. Full stop. The economy shifts. The economy shifts from production of heavy industry, such as steel, and energy, to consumer goods, like motor vehicles, refrigerators, etc. Now write down the characteristics of this. Attention shifts from problems of production to problems of consumption. So you are more of trying to see what your consumer wants. It shifts from problems of production to problems of consumption. Next is consumption of comfort and luxury increases. Production of comfort, and luxuries increases. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट, रेट ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट जो रहेगा कैसा रहेगा? इकोनॉमिक जो नेशनल इनकम है अगेन 20% से ज़्यादा, 20 to 30%. इन्वेस्टमेंट वुड इंक्रीज between 20 to 30% or maybe more. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, migration of the people from villages to city. Migration of people from villages to city. Next, increase in financial security. And the last one is society assumes the role of Society assumes the role of welfare state. Society assumes the role of welfare state. ठीक है, डन. और वेलफेयर स्टेट कैसे they will take, how they will able to achieve the welfare state? First, by allocation of resources for military and foreign policy. अगर हमें वेलफेयर स्टेट चाहिए, वेलफेयर स्टेट का कॉन्सेप्ट क्या है? That we want to bring a kind of economic uniformity, right? They should not have the income disparity between the groups, right? People should have the accessibility of the basic amenities and the resources which are in the country, which are important for their sustenance, and also they should have the basic means of livelihood. These are some of the points which can be considered in welfare society. Now, one can be also allocation of resources. Obviously, one country has to put a lot of resources in their military and foreign policy requirements. बहुत important है. Next, they should have redistribution of income. For example, if we have the income tax, what is that? जो income tax हम pay करते हैं, right? The higher the people are in the higher slabs, people are in higher slabs are paying more higher taxes. For example, somebody who is earning like 30 lakhs per annum, the slabs will be different for him versus the one who is taking another kind of slab. For example, one is earning 1 crore, right, per annum, then he or she probably would be in a different slabs altogether. So these are different slabs for different people who are earning. So what we call it as progressive taxes. Now write down distribution of income through progressive taxes. Distribution of income through progressive taxes. And for what they are using the progressive taxes for? They are using for making your infrastructure, for giving as a subsidy to the people, to the farmers, in your food subsidies as well, right? So it also in your PDS, public distribution system in India, these are used like that. Now third is expansion of consumption level. Expansion of consumption level. Okay, so these are some of the points. For example, education, health, infrastructure. If you are in a country, for example, यूरोपियन कंट्री में अगर आप हैं तो आपको एजुकेशन आपके चिल्ड्रन को क्या मिलेगा? फ्री मिलेगा, राइट? यू डोंट हैव टू स्पेंड सो मच ऑफ मनी, क्योंकि टैक्सेस ही आपने इतने ज्यादा दे रखे हैं दैट नाउ कंट्री इज लुकिंग फॉर द वेलफेयर ऑफ एवरीवन नाउ. ठीक है, तो प्राइमरी हेल्थ केयर आपको बहुत अच्छा मिलेगा वहां पे. यू डोंट हैव टू पुट लॉट ऑफ मनी. Your education is also free and a good education. Okay, that's it. Have a good reading of it, of all the 5 stages. Then I'll use the examples कि कौन से examples हैं, कैसे आप use कर सकते हैं different stages के example, कौन सी examples किस slabs में आते हैं. Then we will do criticism of the model and then the conclusion. Okay. Make a generalized statement. Write down. More developed countries. Write down. More developed countries are lying in stage 4 and stage 5. More developed countries are lying in stage 4 and stage 5. Next, less developed ones are lying in stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3. Less developed countries are lying in stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3. Done. Now write down the example of USA, that how the country has went from stage 1 to stage 2. You will take one case study, and the case study that we are taking is of USA, right? Write down. United States. We are taking the case study of USA. Write down. United States, for example, was in stage 1 before independence, was in stage 1 before independence. Stage 2 during the first half of 19th century, stage 2 during the first half of 19th century, comma, stage 3 during the middle of 19th century, comma, stage 4 during late 19th century, and stage 5 during early 20th century. Early 20th century. Why in the independence, if we consider the timelines of the stages, so what all timelines that we have given so far, कौन से timelines हमने लिए हैं stage 1 में of USA? One is before independence. Now in the stage 2 we have taken your next timeline, first half of 19th century. So 19th century first half. I'll tell you why the 19th century second half, your stage 3. Basically it is 1850 and this is 1899. So just considering that part, 1850 to 1899. Then late 19th century, or you can take it as mid, so it will be like 1870 something. This is 19th century, late 19, that means 1890 के आसपास, right? And the next stage 5 is during early 20th century. Your 90s, 50, 20th century. Now tell me one thing, why this is stage 1 again, as we told that people were dependent on agriculture because the introduction of technology was not there, people were dependent, technical know-how was less, so we are putting under this. Laws were not made because laws are very very important also for institution. जब तक robust नहीं होगा तब तक, that is also one of the problem. Kings, queens, इनका अगर कुछ होगा, that the consolidation of power रहेगा, because you know the, if you have read the history, right? You have to connect it to the history. The history में क्या होता था, right? The power is consolidated within group of people. Stage 2 में again थोड़ा सा आपका साइंस लिखे that it will take off, लेकिन अभी भी सॉरी स्टेज 3 में टेक ऑफ होगा, पर स्टेज 2 में थोड़ा सा साइंस लिखे. लिटिल they are trying to understand how technology has to be infused in all different part of the country. तो यहाँ पे भी थोड़ा सा मैन्युफैक्चरिंग होना स्टार्ट हो गया था उस टाइम पे. इफ यू सी द हिस्ट्री ऑफ अमेरिका, इफ यू लर्न दैट, तो प्लीज आप ये रोस्टॉफ का मॉडल लगा के देखना वहाँ पे कि कहाँ कहाँ कैसे कैसे रोस्टॉफ का मॉडल इंक्लूड हो सकता है. एंड देन यू कैन मेक अ वेरी गुड आंसर, यू कैन राइट अ वेरी नाइस आंसर बाय कनेक्टिंग दिस. ठीक है, फ्रॉम द हिस्ट्री ऑफ अमेरिका, that what happened in its history, and then you can apply the stages. ठीक है, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग started in different parts, but बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं start हुआ था because they were also experimenting, and therefore they were in stage 2. Now stage 3 again, यहाँ पे टेक ऑफ होना स्टार्ट हुआ, इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट, टेक्नोलॉजी आना स्टार्ट हुआ, एक्सपोर्ट्स करना इन्होंने स्टार्ट किया. एक्सपोर्ट्स किसको करते थे, यूरोपियन कंट्रीज को करते थे, जापान एक्सेट्रा. सो दे गॉट डेवलप. ठीक है, स्टेज 4 में अगेन स्किल्ड वर्कर्स, आईटी का जो रेवोल्यूशन है, आईटी रेवोल्यूशन एक्सेट्रा, इट स्टार्टेड, दे स्टार्टेड वर्किंग ऑन दैट. स्किल्ड रेवोल्यूशन आपका आने लगा, स्किल पीपल आपके आने लगे. ठीक है, ऑर्गेनाइज किया इन्होंने अपनी इंस्टीट्यूशन, गवर्नमेंट को ऑर्गेनाइज किया, राइट. दे ट्राई टू मेक लॉज विच वर more of liberal because the US is a capitalist society, so they try to bring the laws which were liberal because they worked on it and people were practicing it very well. And political stability भी बहुत important है for any country to move from one stage to another. because political stability नहीं रहेगा तो people will not be secure, और secure नहीं होंगे तो investment ज़्यादा नहीं कर पाएंगे. So they will try to always hover from one place to another. And finally your stage 5. So your task is to go into the history of America and try to bring this model in coherence with the history of America. Okay, this is just hint that I have given it to you. Now write down the merits of this model. Write down the merits of this model. And then we will write the demerits. Right? The answer is not completed unless you're not writing the merits and demerits. The first merit that we can see is very much evident. क्या क्या evident है इस merits में आपका, क्या क्या आप देख सकते हो? What you can see, Rostov based his model on studies of many countries. He based his model on many countries. He tried to base his model on many countries. He tried to base his model on many countries and their economic and social history. Their economic and social history, full stop. His ideas provide a useful framework. His ideas provide a useful framework. His ideas provides a useful framework. Useful framework against which the current or past state, the current or past of the state's economic and social standings can be compared. Basically they are trying to say in a simple language कि इससे आप किसी की भी पास्ट पे जाके कंट्री के then you can apply कि क्या क्या किस किस स्टेजेस से वो लोग गए हैं. रोस्टम ने जो मॉडल निकाला था that was not on the basis of one country, बहुत सारी countries को रीड किया था and then he got out on the this conclusion, right? नेक्स्ट लिखेंगे inadequacies, or you can write demerits. Inadequacies or demerits. What were the demerits? सी हमने बात करा था फर्स्ट स्टेज में कि एक स्ट्रक्चर होता है, देयर आर लॉट ऑफ स्ट्रक्चर्स व्हिच आर प्रेजेंट, और ये भी एक इशू है दैट ही हैज नॉट कंसीडर्ड. लॉट ऑफ कंट्रीज आर कमिंग फ्रॉम द नोशन ऑफ दे हैविंग the traditional roots present in their country. For example, India में तो बहुत ज़्यादा है that they have the different caste systems, they have different traditional practices that they cannot get over it, right? So when you have the traditional practices and you are too much inclined towards it, तो क्या होगा, there would be always a problem in changing from that pattern to the development pattern, right? अगर आपको अभी कोई बोलते हैं that you have to change your practices, whatever you are doing traditional practices, and you have to go for that, so आप क्या करेंगे कि आप बोलेंगे कि नहीं, my this traditional practice is very important, I try to bring a balance between both, right? So it's fine that you're trying to bring a balance, but apart from that, USA के साथ ऐसा कुछ नहीं था, and same goes with the Western nation like European countries. They did not have this problem. So all the countries were not rooted in this traditional problems, right? Similarly, बहुत सारा कंट्रीज को फिर क्या है, ज्यादा दे विल टेक टाइम टू गेट फ्रॉम वन स्टेज टू अनदर. हर किसी का टाइमलाइन सेम नहीं होगा. स्टेज 1 से स्टेज 2 मूव करने में अगर कोई कंट्री, फॉर एग्जांपल, दे आर टेकिंग हाफ अ सेंचुरी, मे बी कोई और कंट्री 2 सेंचुरी या फिर मोर देन दैट ले सकती है, ठीक है? सो इट ऑलवेज डिपेंड अपॉन कि आप किस तरह से उसको, हाउ यू आर टेकिंग इट, ठीक है? सो देयर आर नंबर ऑफ नेशंस लाइक यूएसए, राइट डाउन. There are number of nations such as USA, Canada, New Zealand, which were born free from traditional societies, and they derived preconditions from Britain, which was already advanced. Okay. Now, second point is precondition is not necessary before takeoff. Precondition का क्या मतलब है? What do you mean by this term that precondition is not necessary before takeoff? It means कि आपको कुछ ऐसे conditions लगाने की जरूरत नहीं है टेक ऑफ लेने से पहले, right? That this should happen, ये होना चाहिए. Excuse me. Okay, so write down precondition is not necessary. That means that take off से पहले जरूरी नहीं है कि preconditions हो, ऐसा होना चाहिए, वैसा होना चाहिए. There could be any trigger, any stimulus which can take one country without preconditions to a takeoff stage, right? Without going from stage 2. Stage 1 से सीधा stage 3 भी move कर सकती है कोई country. So there is no precondition like that. पहले stage 2 ही करेगी, फिर stage 3 पे आएगी, या फिर there has to be such kind of prerequisites which are not needed to be applied. Okay. Next is It does not define major specific criteria. It does not define major specific criteria. It does not define major specific criteria. It does not define major specific criteria to measure a nation's performance. To measure a nation's performance or place it in any one of the 5 stages. Right? Then write down the conclusion. Right? How you will try to write a conclusion? You will write always a balanced conclusion. You will try to say how Rostov's model is very helpful, and then you will try to make it that आपने क्या क्या उसके अंदर लेकुनास देखे. ठीक है? Write down, despite these imperfections, write down, despite these imperfections, Rostov's model remains Rostov's model remains one of the one of the best known formulation. It's one of the best known formulation of nation's economic and social development social development. Full stop. The concept of economic takeoff. The concept of economic takeoff is an enduring one, and one which it may be said and one which it may be said the less developed countries of the world are striving to achieve are striving to achieve. Right? You can write down his full name. He was Walt Whitman Rostov, and he was American economist over 7th United States National Security. He was 7th United States National Security Advisor. Right? All right. Now tell me how much you have understood, how much time we are left with. So first of all, write down the questions which can be answered through this model, which has come in a P by Q, right? I'll give you the keywords also of the question, that what you have to write in this. First, you will, Mackinder, write down the question. Okay, write down the question. Discuss how and why. Write down the question. Discuss how and why Mackinder modified his concept of Mackinder modified his concept of pivot area pivot area after World War. After World War. This is a question of CSE 2020. CSE 2020. This is a question on Mackinder, the theory that we have done yesterday, which is Mackinder's Heartland theory. I'm repeating the question. Discuss how and why Mackinder modified his concept of pivot area after World Wars. Now write down the next question, which has come in CSE 2019. CSE 2019. Again, this area is important, I told you. Examine the relevance of Rimland theory in contemporary world or in present context. This is also the question from the 2019. Write down. This is from today's class. Write down the question. Explain the necessary condition. That's why I focus on takeoff more. There was a question in CSE 2014 on same. Write down the question. Explain the necessary conditions of takeoff and subsequent stages of development. Question is, explain the necessary conditions of takeoff and subsequent stages of development of a nation as propounded by Rostov. As propounded by Rostov. What do you have to write? You have to write necessary condition. That is a question. Necessary condition, that the conditions that you have written, all the characteristics to take off, and then what do you have to write? And subsequent stages of development of a nation as propounded by Rostov. This has been asked in CSE 2014. I'll tell you what keywords you have to write, and then write down another question. It's a simple one. Despite Rostov being, despite Rostov model, despite the Rostov model being an important theory in determining the stages of development, comma, it still proved to be wrong in many areas. Comment. In many areas. This is assignment question. Total 4 questions I'm giving. 2 questions from the previous year from a kinder dreamland, and 1 question from again PYQ, and 1 is your extra question, assignment question. Okay. So what keywords you will be writing in? Explain the necessary condition of takeoff and subsequent stages. कैसे start करेंगे question को? पहले आप क्या लिखेंगे? You will start with the intro, right? क्या लिखेंगे intro में? First, you will try explain Rostov's model, like I have explained it to you. Right? You will give a little brief description of it. So 2 lines description or 3 line description. Then this is a crucial. Then you have to straight away come to the stage 3rd, cut takeoff. This is a crucial stage which covers a relatively brief period of 2 to 3 decades. Right? This is what we are doing. This is a part of takeoff. Is a part of stage 3. Takeoff is a part of stage 3. So you have to describe that it will take a period of 2 to 3 decades, and then in which the economy transforms itself in such a way that economic growth subsequently takes place more or less automatically. The term takeoff implies 3 things. So takeoff third stage के अंदर है, तो क्या क्या characteristics है stage third के? What we discuss, एक तो 10% का क्या होगा? Your GDP investment और your national income investment होगा, right? But people will be still rooted in their traditional ways. ठीक है, पूरा एरिया आपका डेवलप नहीं होगा. Some part of the sectors will be quite developed, but some part will be still rooted in the traditional ways, and therefore हम ये बोल सकते हैं थोड़ा टेक ऑफ आपका the signs would be there. Now what you will say, first the proportion of investment to national income must be from 5 to 10 and more or so. Next is the period must be relatively short so that it should show characteristics of economic revolution. देखिए इकोनॉमिक रेवोल्यूशन को शो करने के लिए पीरियड बहुत लंबा नहीं ले सकते आप. मतलब रेवोल्यूशन का मतलब क्या है? बिकॉज व्हेन वी ऐड द इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन और IT रेवोल्यूशन और मेडिकल रेवोल्यूशन, तो उसमें क्या है? द साइंस शुड बी शोन इन अ वेरी स्मॉल पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. नेक्स्ट इज you can write it must culminate in self-sustaining and self-generating. What do you mean by self-sustaining? It means कि automatically आपका market क्या होना चाहिए? self-running mode में होना चाहिए. You should not give some kind of बहुत ज़्यादा input लगाना पड़ेगा, so that there is no meaning of that. ठीक है, मतलब आप इस तरह से आपने मॉडल तैयार कर दिया है, मतलब आपकी जो इकोनॉमी है अपने आप इट इज लाइक बूस्टिंग अप. Next is thus during the takeoff stage, the desire to achieve economic growth, to raise the living of standard dominates the society. That is definitely one point, that your aspirations rises to a level that everybody would want to have the comfortable lifestyle. They would want their per capita income to be increased. The living standards would be better. Your revolutionary changes occur in the both agriculture and industry, and productivity levels also increases. Next, you will write there is a greater urbanization. That is also one point that you can add in this. That not lot of migration, but you can see that people would be coming from the cities or rural areas to more developed part of the state. Next, you can write the basic structure of economy, social and political structure would also change. Then there will be new entrepreneur class in this. अच्छा, second part of the question. देखिए first part of the question क्या कह रहे हैं? That you have to define the takeoff. So you should know this takeoff is in a part. It is in the stage third. Now जो आपका second part of the question है, आपको जिसे marks how it will be divided. Always remember that if you are having one question complete, तो आपका जो question है 2 parts में divided है already. So आप सिर्फ एक ही part पे नहीं focus करेंगे, क्योंकि half of the marks is allotted to this. And then he tell about the subsequent stages. That means they are directly telling you to describe stage 4 and stage 5th, right? So ऐसा नहीं कि आप सिर्फ टेक ऑफ के बारे में लिखेंगे and that's done, because half अगर ये 10 marks 15 marks का question है, then 7.5 for take off and 7.5 for stage 4 and stage 5th. So you have to take care of this, that how you are because this is a marking scheme that they will be allotted. वहाँ पे होता है marking scheme, किस तरह से आपका marks allot किया उसी basis पे आपको मिलता है. So that means your examiner would be marking you from the 7.5 mark only, because you have just written about takeoff, right? Although you will say मैंने पूरा आंसर लिखा था, it described everything, why then less marks, this because of this, because you are not understanding the marking scheme, because question 2 parts में divided है. Okay, तो next stage आप लिखेंगे फिर drive to maturity, which is your stage 4, your period of self sustained growth, and you will describe as how I have described it to you, and then finally your stage 5th, which is your stage of mass consumption. And along with that you will also try to put examples. जैसे मैंने आपको दिया कि stage 4 और stage 5 में USA, European nations, they would be constituting major part of it. अगर ये major part कर रहे हैं of that Rostov model, then how? And you can also describe the timeline in a very short period. और conclusion जो मैंने आज दिया है आपको, you can describe that conclusion, right? This is how you have to write this question. Now, if you're having any doubt, just let me know. In the next class only, we will start with the central place theory. Your 3 models are left now. Your central place, your Vaughan Tunen model, and there is one more. I think one more is left. Central place and this. Okay. Acha, I have to also explain you what you will write in Rimland. Do you need the keywords for the Rimland and Central and Heartland also? Don't forget. Diagrams are always useful. Okay, Mackinder वाला जो question है आपका 2020, which I have given the very first question, what you will write in that? Okay, what you will write in that? Discuss how and why Mackinder modified his concept of pivot area. क्यों उन्होंने change किया अपना pivot area? See, why? Because first of all, you will tell what does the pivot area consist of. Your Eurasia, आप पहले वो सब कुछ बता देंगे, जैसे मैंने कल explain किया था pivot area, your inner crescent, your outer crescent. सबसे पहले आप वो बताएंगे जो original theory में था. Then you will say basic premise क्या था Mackinder का? The one who rules the East Europe commands the heartland, and one who commands the heartland commands the world. ठीक है, this was the whole idea. Do not forget to write this line. This is very catchy line, and the examiner expect you to write this already when it is about Mackinder. Next is modified after World War First. What was that? 1919. In 1919, Mackinder published another book with the name we have written in the notes, Democratic Ideals and Reality. और उसको उन्होंने क्या नेम दिया? पिवट एरिया. उसमें उन्होंने अपनी गलती रियलाइज करी और क्या बोला? That he said that he renamed pivot area as a heartland, as a region to which, under current conditions, sea power can be refused access, though western part of it lies without the region of Arctic and continental drainage. Britain and Allied Navy. See, they have written in a very difficult language. Basically, आपको क्या बताना है? I'll tell you in a very normal language that आपको ये बताना है कि how he realized his mistake. That despite आपका कुछ countries ऐसी थी, because Russia was not getting access, right? So he said कि heartland because access नहीं है उसका, कहाँ से? With the oceans and the seas, so it is very much protected and it's going to flourish all the time. Although उन्होंने कुछ signs दिखाई भी that it expanded etc, but कहीं जगह it failed brutally. Where? The way it could not prove its point that they are the one who is only in the heartland, right? ये लोग को prove नहीं कर पाए, right? And then there were different parts of the world were also flourishing. For example, USA, right? For example, your Western nation, your European countries, they were also flourishing. So you can't entirely say कि सिर्फ heartland वाले लोग ही flourish करेंगे, right? So where you can also put this point. तो इस तरह से आपको इसको एक्सप्लेन करना है. ऑल राइट, फिर आप रिमलैंड के बारे में जो सेकंड क्वेश्चन है उसमें भी आप सिमिलरली सेम तरीके से बता सकते हैं. ठीक है, because Rimland was opposite to the Mackinder theory. He talked has given more power to more dominance of the sea power over land. He said कि sea power वाला जो है वो ज़्यादा उसका edge है, they have more edge with respect to the land power. ठीक है? Anybody is having any doubt in the questions? The people who were already in the class, like आप पूछ सकते हैं कोई question, कोई doubt, how you have to answer. Piyush, are you able to get this? Rahul, ईशान तो भी नए हैं, और all the people is Suraj is there, then this is Mishra, this is also there. So आप पूछ सकते हैं, please ask question if you have any. Yes, class. Yes, Piyush, everything is clear now? There is no doubt? प्लीज आप क्वेश्चंस प्लीज करिएगा. व्हाई आई एम सेइंग अगेन एंड अगेन, बिकॉज आप क्वेश्चंस नहीं करेंगे तो देयर इज नो पॉइंट ऑफ टेकिंग द लेक्चर्स. ट्राई टू राइट द आंसर. एटलीस्ट आप एक आंसर असाइनमेंट में से करिए, पर बिल्कुल करिए, अदरवाइज आप यू विल नॉट गेट इनटू द हैबिट ऑफ राइटिंग. जिस तरह से मैंने स्ट्रक्चरिंग बताई है वैसे ही करिए. ट्राई टू इंक्लूड डायग्राम्स. दिस इज नॉट द वन डे प्रोसेस कि आपको एक दिन में ही सारी आंसर राइटिंग या फिर एक मंथ में आ जाएगा. This is a process and you have to do it diligently and you have to show me the answers in the class. और जो online students हैं, they will be sending me over my mail ID, but you have to practice it. No doubts, class? Okay. Thank you so much.